Hello everyone, I'm Roy Potter and this is the live stream version of the Potter Expositor. You might notice that I sound a little nasal today, as I said in my announcement last night. Here I was on antibiotics because of this oral surgery. I was on those for almost 2 weeks, now about a week and a half. And wouldn't you know, as soon as I stop taking those, I get a nasty cold. Isn't that the way it goes? But at any rate, I can still talk. Seems like this is going around to a lot of people. I think it sounded like several other people that are on the web have had this same thing. So hopefully none of you have it. Hopefully you're all well. Thank you for coming. I see a number of you are in the chat room. Yes, I'm leaving the chat room open this morning. I figured this time it's probably a good idea. So we'll see how it goes. As you can see, I named this one Distractions of War. If any of you used to listen to, or still do, Gerald Celente and other people, we've all talked about this. When the powers that be are challenged, when they think that their power is in question or that they are in danger of losing that power, when all else fails, they will take you to war. And unfortunately, the people keep falling for it. I don't know what the answer is, because too many of us go along with authority, what we think authority is, and we don't look at the real picture. And I don't want to get in too much of a philosophical discussion about this, but I just want to point it out. I don't really have the answer, because as long as we have the types of government systems that we have, this is what they will do. So the first thing they do, of course, is they start causing trouble at home. And that's what we're seeing with all of this. Isn't it strange that all of a sudden we're having a lot of these school shootings, etc.? And of course the bombings in Austin, Texas. And by the way, of course the bomber blew himself up. I guess it was either early this morning or late last night. Better him than anybody else. But have you noticed how there's been an uptick in this activity? Now, we can say it's DARPA, we can say it's MK Ultra, we can say it's a lot of things, but with the 5G going in everywhere, if any of you have been studying that, and you should be, you know the dangers of it. They can actually give you thoughts, and I know that sounds like tinfoil hat stuff, aluminum foil hat stuff, as Lionel would say, because we don't use tinfoil anymore. But the fact of the matter is that technology exists. If any of you know about remote viewing, a lot of you will laugh about that. No, that was in fact a military intelligence, an Army military intelligence program. And David Morehouse, who was a classmate of mine, was involved in that. So, these things are out there. And with all of the things that are going on the television, the constant, all of these games and things about killing people and all that, it's more about, there's no right or wrong anymore. It's just doing. And you don't know what else is being, put forward into the minds of these people. But I think the 5G is a very dangerous thing. Most of the people that talk about it, that know anything, will give you that information. And once they get us all to the point where we do have chips, we'll just basically be walking automatons, walking robots that won't have a will of our own, or it'll be controlled at any rate. These are bad times. So I think a lot of what we're seeing here and the uptick in that has to do with these other influences. And for the people that are in charge, the powers that be, they don't worry about this. This is just to keep the masses under control, in fear, and looking for the government to solve their problems. And when has government ever solved a problem? It never has. But in the eventuality that these systems that they've put into place in these activities don't work here at home, or to exacerbate them, they're starting all of this other nonsense around the world. I read an article this morning by retired Lieutenant Colonel Ralph Peters. He put it in the New York Post. If you know about Lieutenant Colonel Peters, he was a Fox News military analyst for a number of years. I've never liked Lieutenant Colonel Peters because he's a war hawk. The answer is always to go to war. But he wrote a piece this morning in the New York Post talking about, you know, the tyranny around the world and pointing fingers at Putin and at Erdogan and at Xi Jinping in China. Not to say that they aren't. I'm not sure that Putin is in the same category as the Chinese leader or the Turkish leader. But, you know, we have to have enemies. And so we point at the tyranny that's evident in those systems, and we refuse to identify the one in our own. Oh, he makes a point of following the Constitution, sure, but that's all just so that he covers his bases. You know, he extols the importance of our system and how wonderful it is, but doesn't talk about the dangers in this system, that we are no longer a constitutional republic. That's just a fallback position that they can take to sound sanctimonious. So his answer, of course, to American freedom, and he talks about democracy, not about a constitutional republic, which also is a fallacy, talking about that we're supposed to be a democracy. But he talks about that being so wonderful, and yet, if it was wonderful, why would we be having to force our system on other people around the world? And we've talked about the three parts of the Illuminati triangle with the three areas: London, Rome, the Vatican, and D.C. So the fact of the matter is that it's a Pax Americana, or more than that, it's a Pax shadow government, New World Order. You go along with them, and then you can have peace. Well, their definition of peace, which is that they'll let you live your little life as long as you stay in your place, while they go and they force our system on everybody else. So the answer, at least to begin with, is that we clean our own house and we set an example to the world like we were supposed to in the first place. But evil men always conspire to get in there and do things. And are we seeing that now? Oh my gosh. You know, Field McConnell of Able Danger has been pointing out that his sister, Christine Marcy, and we talked about this, under President Carter in the 70s, started the Senior Executive Service, and you're hearing a lot about this now. And that's actually what the shadow government is. Well, yeah, that's true. It's definitely the major part of it. There's a lot more to it than that, and Obama is its president. He never gave that up. So there are two systems fighting within our government right now. And I have to say that we'd be silly, we'd be making a mistake if we didn't admit that this is a very serious situation. It is. Now, in that regard, Dr. Jerome Corsi wrote a book, and I wanted to show it to you because I know most of you already know about it, but I would suggest that you get it. It's this one right here, Killing the Deep State, The Fight to Save President Trump by Dr. Jerome Corsi. A lot of people are pointing this out now. I figured I might as well be one. I've read, I'm about 3/4 of the way through it. It's very well written. It's understandable for people that don't quite understand the political machinery. He doesn't get off into the weeds. He basically just tells you what's happening, what has happened, and what is happening. So, you know, I picked this one up at Barnes & Noble. I know a lot of people are saying, we'll get it off of Amazon, but I didn't have time to do that. So I just picked it up. And it's definitely well worth it. If you need a lesson on how the deep state, how the Senior Executive Service, how the shadow government is trying to destroy our country and overthrow the duly elected President of the United States, read this book. It'll be eye-opening for you. I encourage you to do that. It'll give you a lot more ammunition to use when you're talking to people or whatever else, you know, doing your own YouTubes or whatever. So, to answer Lieutenant Colonel Ralph Peters, it's funny that you bring up the Constitution now and how important it is to follow it, but you haven't done it when when your side wasn't in power. Well, they still are in power, but I mean holding on to the presidency. Along that line, I was on Twitter this morning, and I got to give a shout out to Vachel Lindsay. A lot of people are retweeting this information that Vachel is putting out. I hope I'm saying his name right. I hope it's a guy, not a girl. I think it is a guy. But it's at _Vachel Lindsay _, on Twitter if you want to go look at it. And what he's done is, he has a job. He doesn't work for the MSM. He doesn't even have a YouTube channel or anything like that he gets money off of. Not that there's anything wrong with that. But this is the heart of citizen journalism. This is the real importance of citizen journalism. He's not depending upon income. A lot of people, have been complaining, well, YouTube cut me off from my money. PayPal has done this to me. They've demonetized my channel, whatever. You link, and I'm not saying it's wrong to link your income with YouTube or these other platforms, but you see what happens when you don't do it their way. They want to attack you, and one of the best ways they can attack you after censorship is to cut off your financial supplies, which is one reason why I've never monetized anything I've done on YouTube. I mean, they've done me enough damage on the censorship, getting rid of videos and things like that. But I didn't want to be beholden to anybody, and I don't want to be prevented from saying it the way I see it. Now, it's not really all that bad when you're monetized on YouTube, but the point is that I don't depend on that. And that's the point that this Vachel Lindsay makes, that he has his own job, and he was looking up some things, and of course, none of this is reported in the mainstream media. They want to talk about, Stormy Daniels and porn stars and people's private lives, all the stuff that feed the garbage to the garbage masses. Nah, I know I'm being a little vicious there, but they give it to you because you keep asking for it. Oh, I think Stormy Daniels is gorgeous myself, but only on the outside. That's a lesson, guys learn after a while. There are gorgeous women with good hearts, but they're hard to find. So this is an example of that. But they want to castigate, President Trump over this. And I don't know whether it's all true or not. That's not even the issue. We've talked about that before. President Trump, I could give a lot of information, biblically about what he has done under these circumstances or been alleged to do. But that's not really the subject of matter for today. What subject matter is that the MSM distracts you. This is a principle of war: distraction, diversion. And that's what they do, to keep your minds off the important things. And so Vachel Lindsay, he talks about something that just happened in Pennsylvania. That entire election that just happened, and all of the things that we're finding out about, the voter fraud, all the different things. Not that I think that Saccone was a good candidate from the Republican Party. I do not. I think that was a mistake. And it could be that the Democrat is actually more of a libertarian than a Democrat. Could be. It's a good way to subvert a party. Put your own people in there. Republicans, in fact, not in name only. Make them what would that be? Democrats in name only. Dino, I guess, huh? So, at any rate, I don't know all the internal developments there, exactly what happened, but getting back to Vachel Lindsay, which I keep dancing around here, he did his own investigation and put out a report this morning on Twitter where he talked about that there are impeachment charges now against 4 Democrat Pennsylvania judges. Well, imagine that. And what's worse, guess who they have connections to? I'll give you one guess. One guess. Yeah, Hillary Clinton. That won't surprise anybody, will it? This woman is the Jezebel of the modern era. Maybe worse. She is probably the most wicked woman that has ever lived, is how I'm beginning to believe it. The things that she's done, from Benghazi to Libya to Syria to her opponents here, Just everything that she's done. What a wicked... She's not wicked, she's evil. As I've said, there's a difference between being wicked and evil. She's evil. And everything, as Lionel stated, everything that's happening with the deep state, with the shadow government, with the FBI, the DOJ, Seth Rich thing, everything that's happened has been for Hillary. She is their queen priestess. And if you don't see that, you need to look at it very closely. She follows that archetype. That's not the best term to use under the circumstances, but I think you get the idea. She's the symbol of that creature, the living symbol of that creature. And she is the most evil woman in the world today, bar none, no doubt about it. So, getting back to Vachel Lindsay, again, and he makes the point, while the MSM is concentrating on porn stars and, all that stuff, here he is getting out the real information. And it's gone out. And I'm putting it out, and I think a lot of other people will too, because this is important. This is what we are about. Exposing corruption and telling you that it's out there and that we need to rid ourselves of it. We are in an awful situation, as you've heard me say. We have secret societies, secret combinations that are now having the light put on them. How long have people like myself been saying this for years? And now finally, been called again tinfoil hats when it's really aluminum foil hats. But the point is, we've been attacked, we've been denigrated, all of those things. And if people had opened their eyes years earlier, we may have averted being where we are today. But we're in a very dangerous situation. As I said in my Boston bombing videos, there's an internal war in the United States government that's been going on for some time, a long time, a lot longer than just since the Boston bombings. But that was the first real place where it was so obvious under the circumstances if you looked at it. And I think Lionel Nation, somebody got into that, talking about the Zarnov brothers, the FBI connections and the CIA connections, in that war between those two agencies to try to control those guys. And if they were even the bombing suspect, if they really did it, and of course in my mind I'm not certain that they did, and I've given that information in my Boston bombing series if you want to go back and look at it. But the point is, even Lionel had to bring that up to show the problems that we're facing right now. All the lies told by Comey and by Rosenstein and by Clapper, go right on down the line. The violations of our Constitution by Mueller and the FBI, framing our good General Michael Flynn and letting Clinton and Podesta and all these run free. And I keep seeing information that Podesta's been arrested and et cetera, et cetera. Well, we're from Missouri, ladies and gentlemen. We don't need to believe it until we see it, okay? And I would caution you not to believe it until you see it. A lot of nonsense out there, and they're trying to keep us diverted from doing something about it. And of course, like I said, one of the first things you can do is that. Read that and get yourselves educated on what's going on here. So I wanted to bring up Vachel Lindsay. If you're on Twitter, I don't think he has a YouTube channel. I might be mistaken, but he's definitely on Twitter, and I'd like you to go take a look at that. Give him some attention there, and move it out. That's fantastic reporting on his part. Okay, another major development. We've been calling for the Republicans to, in the Congress, both from the Senate and the House of Representatives, to form a group of, say, 5, 10, 15 senators and, a concomitant number of congressmen, say 20 or 30, and go out and state that we've had enough of this nonsense of the coup. Pardon me a second. Yeah. Wow. We've had enough of this nonsense with the coup and all of this. We need to get down to the business of making America free again so that we can make America great again. And I put it in that order, and I always have. But nobody in Congress is doing that. You know, nobody is standing. I'm like, yeah, okay, Nunes is doing some things. You know, we've got some other people in there that are fighting in these different committees to get the information out. But look at Trey Gowdy. I think people are finally seeing him for what he is. Trey Gowdy talks a good line, but he does zero. As I pointed out in a video some time ago, a few weeks ago, I guess, he interviewed 2 people from the Department of Justice since last October. 2. Really. Or maybe that was even from October 2016. I don't know, but it was at least since last year. He deserves to be in a Shakespearean theater. If he's a good attorney, well, he may be a good attorney too, but he's a lousy congressman. All he does is talk. He has no answers. He's a deflector, in my opinion. So that just goes along with all of this about nobody is really standing up for the American people. Not really. There are a few, like I said, Nunes and these guys are trying to reveal the deep state and the shadow government and what they're doing to Trump and the Constitutional Republic. But what did happen, and this is really good, I had my Californian Republican insider, he said, as a matter of fact, I was talking to him yesterday, and I said, yeah, I appreciate having a Republican insider. And he says, I wish you'd stop calling me a Republican insider. I'm a conservative. And I said, if I tell people you're a conservative insider, what does that mean? Nobody's going to know what that means. I don't know what it means. I said, no, I think I'm going to keep calling you a Republican insider. He's probably laughing right now. He's probably watching this. So I'm going to call him my Republican insider. What a guy. I mean, you know, he's been right on all the time. He ought to be the vice president of the United States, I swear. Yeah, I would want to replace Trump, but he wouldn't do that. But what a fantastic individual. Anyway, he pointed out that we've had 2 former retired FBI assistant directors come out lately, James Kallstrom and Chris Schwecker, come out and start identifying all of the problems in the FBI and in the DOJ, and the fact that this is in fact a criminal, treasonous effort to unseat the Constitutional Republic of the United States, not just President Trump. That, of course, is President Trump is the focus. He's the personification of the Second American Revolution and trying to throw off these evil shadow government, deep state, senior executive service, all of that. And it's not just in the federal government. It permeates down through even to your local water meter reader, as I've said before. This is pervasive. And I would like to think it's just like the left call it, you know, it's just an evolution into the next great society. But it isn't. That's how it's sold, but that's not it. It's the tyranny of China. It's the murderous attitudes of the Nazis and of the Stalinists. It's the idea that you have the right to think what you want as long as you think the way we tell you. And it used to be that you could, you know, even verbalize your differences. Well, they're changing that now, and anybody who's paying attention will know that. So, what did God do? Why do we have freedom of speech? Why should we? Why did the founding fathers make that the First Amendment? Why? And the Second Amendment to defend all the rest. Well, there are a lot of historical reasons, and we could go through that. I'm not going to waste all your time on that. I'm going to just go back to the first chapter of Genesis. God spoke, and it happened. God said something, and it happened. Without speech, without words, we are not human beings. We're not in the image of God. So the demons want to control your speech because then they control that image of God. Very simple. It's an attack on God himself. That's what it is. And should that surprise anybody? It shouldn't, because that's what Satan wanted to do. He wanted to, and I use that term, it's actually somebody else, but most people understand it to be Satan. Satan wanted God's honor for himself. What's God's honor? To speak and have it be so. To sit on the throne. You can take that metaphorical. I take it literally in the spiritual world, but it's metaphorical too, and we're seeing it happen right now. They want to worship an AI. They want to link up to the AI, which is a created being. I've talked about this before. A created system. Whether it's really conscious or not, that's arguable. But the point is they want to seat that in us. If we're God's image, isn't that trying to steal the throne of God? Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's funny how it's manifested in this world. You know, the biblical people that wrote these stories, and these stories are even before that time, and I understand all that, but the point is that these allegorical stories, we're seeing it play out in the real world right now. So, we need people like James Kallstrom and Chris Schwecker to come out and say these violations of our laws are occurring, and that there is a treasonous coup against our constitutional republic and against the personification of that Second American Revolution and the constitutional republic, Donald Trump. Not that he's perfect. You know how I've been. I've held his feet to the fire, and I will continue to do that. Not that he pays attention to me, but I'm going to point it out, right? It's absolutely necessary. So, you know, he's being manipulated. President Trump is being manipulated by the deep state. We've had all those bombings going on, the shootings in the schools, and it's just going to get worse. Haven't we said that this would start? You know, it's not why it's starting. We could argue about that. The fact is it is starting, okay? It is starting. It's there. We can argue about why the walls of Jericho fell down, whether it was a tornado or the blowing of the trumpets. Doesn't matter. The point is they fell down. And that's the situation with these reigns of chaos that are starting to begin. Murders, chaos. So we have this problem, and it's just going to get worse. And people like Kallstrom and Schwecker, we need to pay attention to. Now, in that same regard, we have, as most of you know by now, Trump has added Joe DeGenova, I guess is how you say his name, onto his legal team. And this guy is a fighter. The mainstream media, as I said in a video the other day, is calling him the conspiracy theorist lawyer. Well, that tells you that, you know, he's on the right track. So there's something very good about Joe DeGenova. And so I'm very excited to see that he's on the Trump team. Hopefully he'll be able to go after Mueller and do what the Congress seems to want to do, some of them, but just can't seem to get it going. And of course there's a problem with Jeff Sessions. And no, I still don't trust Jeff Sessions. Nor Ray. Okay, no, I don't. Where are the arrests? You know, as we've all said, people say, well, you know, you've got to be careful, and we've talked about this before. You know, you got to train the people and all that. Hey, we haven't got time for that. How many people were killed in the bombings in Austin? 2, right? How many kids were shot up in the schools? What is the next major 9/11 false flag mass casualty event going to occur? When are they going to take us to another war? I get a little upset with Trump believing that the chemical weapons are being used by Assad in Syria. It's ridiculous. That's been proven to be false time and time again, and yet he keeps singing that same song. That's the deep state getting to him. The shadow government, the New World Order. Maybe he's playing a game there, but, you know, if they start killing people again over that, then we've got a problem, and that's how I'll call it. So I'm really hoping that we can take down the shadow government without losing billions of people in the process, because that's very much a danger at this point. Okay, along with all of that that's happening around the United States trying to cause chaos, what happened to Jared Kushner and Ivanka the other day and their family? The helicopter that they were on, the rotor, the tail rotor apparently malfunctioned, and they almost crashed. Now, I am certain, mechanical problems can happen. There was a helicopter that Trump was going to get back. This was back in the 1990s, I think, maybe early 2000s. He was planning on a trip in a corporate helicopter. I think it was from New York to Mar-a-Lago or something like that. And it crashed. He was planning on being on that aircraft, but at the last minute it couldn't go, and one of his staff members went and was killed in that crash. It could have killed Donald Trump. So these things can happen. Okay, I'm not saying they don't. But timing is everything. And anybody who knows anything knows that Donald Trump's daughter, Ivanka Trump, is his jewel. Any father who has a daughter understands that. It's not sexual attraction. It's that daddy-daughter love. And it's fully understandable. Well, was it an attempted assassination? What, did somebody cause a problem with the aircraft? I don't know. But it wouldn't surprise me any. Thank God nothing happened to them. Thank God the pilot was able to keep control of the aircraft, because that's not easy. I have to keep sipping on that because I'm losing my voice. All right. So, what kind of a warning was that if it was? Well, again, it's, play ball with us, or, we have control. We're going to get you. We're going to get your family. And unfortunately, we're continuing to surround Russia and Syria, blaming Assad for chemical attacks. We know that most of that was put into place by the Saudis, maybe even by the Israeli Mossad. Who knows? But the fact of the matter is, they want that war in Syria even now. And I'm hoping that President Trump will not bow down to that. Matter of fact, he must not bow down to that. Let's make America free again. Let's be the example to the world. Let's not be out there doing what Ralph Peters wants us to do, and that's using our military power to force people into submission to the monetary system or to democracy, which is really a form of tyranny. He did a good job on explaining that, not many people really understand our system of government. He was right about that. To most of the world, a democracy means exactly what the word actually means. It means anarchy. And they don't want that. Well, neither do we. That's why we have a constitutional republic, but he didn't want to use that term. But the best way to get people to understand what you're doing is by setting an example, not forcing it on them. Now, I'm not saying to be a protectionist. I understand the projection of power. I understand that. But we're way beyond that, and Clinton proved it with what she did in Libya, what she's tried to do in Syria, etc., etc. So we've really got to turn these people back. It's absolutely important. All right, and then what I'll end on, and then I'll start taking some information on the chat room there, is, I've really come to appreciate more and more Betsy and Thomas of American Intelligence Media and their conclave and all of their contacts. I've watched them for years, but really seriously in the last few months. And I have to give them a plug, because what they do is absolutely incredible. Some people might not like their style, or whatever, but they're good folks. They do a lot of good research. They understand the system. They've been talking about these things, as has Abel Danger, Field McConnell, with the whole problem with the senior executive service and that shadow government. And so they continue to put out excellent information. And there was one that they did the other day, which I put up on my YouTube channel, and I'd like you to go watch it. I put it there. Betsy and Thomas are great. They say, go ahead and use our stuff, put it out on your channels. The dissemination of the information is more important than us getting the credit. Well, of course, they're going to get the credit. But I went ahead and put it up on my channel because I thought they did such a great job they went down the thing on McCabe and pointed out how McCabe has done all these things, and of course under the auspices of Mueller and Comey and Clinton, et cetera, et cetera. And I just, along with, and I keep showing you this, along with this book here, their information is superb. So I would hope that you go and look at that. And there are a lot of other people, but you know, I try to at least point out somebody else other than myself on each of my transmissions. So, and in that regard, I'm going to bring up Monograph. Oh boy, you know, he's been attacked so mercilessly by people that don't know anything. They just want to accuse. And I'm just going to say, and I'm not saying he did, I'm just going to say, if he did something as a juvenile, if he did, that's what the juvenile system is for, to correct those problems so that as adults, they function in society. And again, I'm not saying he did anything. He did end up, as he talked about, in Milan, the school, but nobody really knows why, and it wouldn't really matter. The real point of the matter is that they seal those juvenile records for a reason, and the reason is you get a new lease on life as long as you don't, you know, continue in your bad behavior. And as he said, you know, he's had secret high classified clearances. He's worked in some very high classified security jobs. And so, at any rate, and I've talked to him. Most of you know that I have a rather close relationship with him. And he's talking about the importance of we're not seeing these arrests. That we're so involved in talking about what can happen, but not what we're going to cause to happen or what has happened. So hopefully this week is supposed to be something, right? And we keep getting, this keeps getting pushed down the road. Oh, it's going to happen next week. Oh, it's going to happen next week. I saw this morning where apparently the FBI opened up an investigation on Q because of the boom, boom, boom statements. You know, they're trying to tie it to the bombings in Austin. Whoa, you know, the FBI is lost. It's a lost organization. It has been. It's nothing more than a protection racket for the elites and the political hacks. But at any rate, the point is that we need to start seeing something. And I realize that President Trump is up against a big problem here. But as those of us, and you got to understand, it's not just myself and Monty that are saying this. A lot of other people are saying, hey, come on, Lionel for one, where are the arrests? What's going on here? You know, if even Craig Sawyer saying, what's going on here? You know, you got to know, is it because they're so protected by this supernatural entity? I mean, Clinton and Podesta, et cetera, et cetera. It could be to some extent. But, you know, a lot of that is a fear that they manufacture, sort of like, you know, the hexes that, you know, witches will put on you. It's psychological by and large. Seize the initiative and let's get on with it. So, like, you know, I'm saying again, we need to start seeing some action here. And we can't wait much longer. We really can't. Not with all the things that are going on. This 5G thing is extremely dangerous, as I've already pointed out, and it is being implemented. Now, President Trump stopped the Chinese from getting involved in our domestic use of it, but it's still a dangerous program. The things that you can do with the 5G is, well, whoever controls 5G is probably going to control the world. That's why Eric Schmidt is doing what he's doing, because he wants to be that guy. So something needs to be done. It needs to be done now. I'm not technical enough to really understand how we could use 5G without it becoming a problem. I don't know what that is. I'm not even sure that Thomas of AIM, American Intelligence Media, knows what that is. He did bring up, I've talked about, you know, wearing stainless steel, things like this to absorb and deflect those mini waves, but that's still not going to do the whole job. Something needs to happen here so that this doesn't become a weapons system like everything else. Okay? All right. So that's about all I wanted to talk about. Let me just see if there's anything here that I missed. No, I think I've covered everything else in the past few videos. No sense in doing that again. Let's see what's in the chat room here. Okay, somebody says you have to have proof. Come on now. Come on. What'd I just show you? You have to have evidence. You have to have proof. Huh? It's all right here. There is more. Look, I was in law enforcement and the military for how many years, off and on? I could convict Hillary Clinton. Okay, the court system's corrupt. Okay, fine. All right, let's do it another way. Does it have to be by tribunals? I don't know. But it needs to be done. There's more. All this, oh, you have to have the case built. Hey. Jeff Sessions, if he was on the on the ball, all that would have been done. And you keep hearing people say, oh, he's done it. But as Lionel pointed out, what are you talking about? He's got one guy that he's appointed to look into the problem. One. That's not an all-out effort. That's a whitewash. Oh, all these things are going on behind the scenes. Hey, I realize the power of these people, but it needs to be done. So there's more than enough evidence. Okay. Okay, somebody seems to know something about the differences in the 5G networks, and that's why I say I'm not really technically proficient on that. I don't want to say that all 5G is bad, and apparently somebody's saying there is a difference in those, so I believe that's probably true. Okay, comments on Steve versus BP Earthwatch. I don't want to go there. I will say this, okay? This is the problem when you have independent thinkers. This is why totalitarian systems are always so successful, because there's force. You can't have an opinion in a totalitarian system. You can't even have disagreement. In the military, I told you about I'm not a yes man. So, on a staff, I'll get my points in. But when the commander finally makes a decision, you got to go with it, whether you like it or not. So it's a totalitarian system in that regard. So, in other words, what I'm saying is everybody's forced to get along, by and large, to follow the leader. All right? Independents, freedom lovers are hard to get to work together. All the intentions are always good, I think, but the way that it happens in reality, people's jealousies get into play. There's no system. I mean, theoretically there is the Constitutional Republic, the Second American Revolution, but there's nothing really formal in place that the people feel like they're part of an organization, so they start pulling their way. And I think there have been several of us who wanted to try to overcome that, but you don't want to make a pretense that you're a leader. Maybe that's the mistake. Maybe somebody should do that. We have folks that could step into those places, but good people don't want power. They don't want that. So I'm not sure what the answer is, but in this situation, all I would say is that if you send a private message to somebody, it's a private message, and it should remain a private message. It shouldn't be used against the person that sent it in any way, and so I do consider that was a mistake, and I'm not going to go into the particulars. But when a man has the fortitude, whether he's right or wrong in the situation, to address somebody privately about a problem that they perceive, you don't plaster that all over for everybody to see. You don't do that. So in that regard, I see where a problem occurred that may not have needed to. Now, it was based on some other things, as most of you probably know. I worry about my broadcasts here. I don't like walking over Jordan Sather. Not that I'm going to take his audience, because it's kind of a different audience, but you get my point. David Knight on InfoWars is on right now. But I go ahead and do these, not with the intention of trying to take views from somebody else, but for those who want to talk, want to have some interaction, and of course this goes up so other people can see it later. So I figure that that's okay, but it does bother me. I do it in the middle of the night, but who wants to, what interaction will we have there? That's the point of live streaming, right? It's right now, and you have some ability to interact. So at any rate, that's all I'll say about the situation there. I'm very sad to see that happened. What I've decided to do, just so everybody knows, I'm probably not going to do any more live interviews. Of course, I say that, but I just don't feel that that's something I'm going to do. I'll interview people if they want, bring them on here or whatever. But I'm pretty much done with doing live interviews because I don't want to get caught in the middle of those things anymore, frankly. So I hope everybody understands my position on that. We need to put our selfishness and our jealousies and our fear aside. I don't know what to say about it other than that. Sorry. Pray for agreement through Jesus. That's a good way to do it. Let this mind be in you that was in Christ Jesus, right? And I could go on with that. You've heard me say it before. Let the Spirit of God descend upon you as dews from heaven. Bring that Spirit of God into you. It's not, if we're not paying attention to it, things like that occur, and it's sad. We're still fallen beings to some extent, one way or another, at different grades, and those shortcomings come out. But yeah, you have to look at the greater good in that regard. Keep your individuality, but look towards the greater good. Right? Yeah, love, as Jesus said, love one another as I have loved you. Yeah. Okay, Abel Danger hinted Podesta was arrested. I don't really care, okay? Until I see somebody in handcuffs, I'm not going to believe it. There's too much misinformation out there. We need to see it. I'm going to say it. I'm from Missouri. I don't care who says it. Abel Danger, I don't care. I have a lot of respect for Abel Danger and all that, but I'm not going to get sucked into that. We've got to see it. And if you don't see it, it didn't happen, right? You just got to look at it that way. Stormy's Hooters slapped Trump around. Sorry, I didn't mean to read that. Sorry about that. The Awesome Bomber is dead. Yeah, he blew himself up. He may not have been the only one, though. We'll see. Thoughts on the Oath Keepers? No, I'm not a member. I think the principle is excellent. Basically, they didn't want me to be a member of their organization because of my background. There's a little more to it than that, but I agree with the principles of getting both active military law enforcement and retired and former, etc., all to abide by their oath. I think that's great. But for various reasons, I did not become a member. Okay. You're not going to get me to talk about different YouTubers or other people like that. You're not going to take me down that road, okay? I only mentioned the thing between BP Earthwatch and Steve because I was intimately involved to some extent, not willingly and not knowingly that there was a problem there. But the way I'm going to resolve that is I'm just not going to talk about these other YouTubers, and I haven't. I've made comments on certain people. I've never really said names. There's some people I don't follow, and I'm not going to. There are others that I know some background on. Not that people's past is bad. People will point to my past and say, "Yeah, you're terrible" or whatever. Well, it's the content. It's the context of the past. And how it interacts. And there are some people out there that, despite all the good work they do, I'm not going to have anything to do with them. As far as going along and watching them, I can get my information other places, as I've said before. And I'm not going to get involved in attacking any of those people. I figure that in the end, the truth will will out, one way or the other. The country might fall apart in process, but I'm not gonna falsely accuse anybody. I know some detailed information on some, not just the bad people, the shadow government, and that kind of stuff. In the truth movement, there are some really bad people out there. Really bad. But what's the point? That's just going to start an internal war in the truth movement. I'm not interested in doing that. I'm just wary. Okay, I'll be aware. I'm going to watch them, but I'm not going to get involved in that. EMP is always a possibility. Always. An electromagnetic pulse attack, always a possibility. Hell, our own shadow government could do it to us. You know, they've got weapons that nobody knows about. We could talk about directed energy weapons. We could talk about the stratospheric aerosol injection and what that's doing to us, and the aluminum that's causing the fires to be hotter. There's all kinds of stuff they can do. Sound weapons, 5G weapons. Good grief. You know, there's stuff out there that we don't even know about. So, you know, this is a very bad time. And that's why, again, Trump needs to get a handle on these things. And I think he's trying, but wow, it's really time. It's really time to move forward, and we got to seize that initiative. Yeah, the government is at war with the American people right now. Pardon me for just a second. Dang colds, man, I'll tell you what. I've been saying that for a long time. The American government is at war with the American people. Even the good part of the government. Look what happened to the Bundys. Look what happened to the Hammonds in Oregon. Look what happened to the ranchers along the Red River. Look what happened to the NSA surveilling all of us. Look at Congress passing the Patriot Act, allowing, not even just knowing about Project Mockingbird, which is the CIA influencing the news media, telling you what to do to propagandize the American people, but authorizing them to do it under NDAA 13 or 14, and then funding it, and then the NDAA 14 or 15, whatever it was. That's war upon the American people, yes. And it's because the people in power want to know what you think, because they don't want to lose power. It's a corruption of our system, and it's very, very bad. Okay, Nasara. Oh, Neo Butterfly. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I saw that with Sergeant Report and Tavares. Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. I won't spend any time on it. Sergeant Report's very good. A lot of people don't like the fact that he seems to be anti-Zionist, but if you understand the Zionist movement, it's not being anti-Semitic. It's not being anti-Jewish per se. You know, my understanding is that even Orthodox Jews don't like Zionism. Well, I know some Orthodox Jews that will tell you that. So, you know, they understand what the real Israel is, and it's not that nation state over in the Middle East. The real Israel, that's not what it is. Okay. Crystal Peoples saying that she hopes I keep this up. Well, I've wanted to give up several times, as most of you know, but then my conscience gets the better of me, and my Republican insider, as I talked about earlier. Every time I think about getting out of this, he comes, oh, you can't do that. You're one of those voices out there we need to hear. Me? My voice? Oh, come on. But it is something that mounts. The more voices, the better. So I kind of understand that. So we'll see. USMC activated. Well, oh boy, here we go. In fact, and I don't need letters to tell me this. The problem is primarily in the country, even though we have problems in LA and in New York and in all over the country. The real hub of our corrupt system is in the DC area. I mean, I don't think anybody can argue that. Almost all of the deep state, senior executive service, shadow government is located there. That is in FEMA Region 3. Well, the rules for FEMA Region 3, particularly in the District of Columbia, are somewhat different than over the rest of the country. Could the Marine Corps, could Trump be using the Marine Corps to start doing what we've been asking? I don't know. I would hope so. As most of you know, even if Sessions is doing his job, which I don't think he is, despite all. I mean, there's been this whole thing that Mueller was working for President Trump, and I kind of fell into that at first. I could see some of the reasoning, but no, that's not the case now. There's no way that Mueller is a secret in Trump's pocket, that's taking care of him. No, that's not what's happening. And I don't believe that that's with Jeff Sessions either. I don't see any true evidence to the contrary. Be that as it may, even if Sessions was doing something on the side, I believe that legally President Trump, politically it might be dangerous, but we're at that point where desperate times call for desperate measures. I think Trump could use a portion of the military to seize, not just have the Treasury Department seize the assets of all these criminals, but actually seize them personally. Not the Treasury Department, well, maybe them too, but certainly the USMC under the situation that we have. So have they been activated? I wouldn't want to call it that. Alerted? Yeah, probably. We'll see. But that's hearsay as far as I'm concerned at this point. I'm not seeing a whole lot going on. Sessions knew he would be out if he didn't fire McCabe. Yeah. Well, I don't think he would have been out because that was still a chip that he could play. But I think Lionel and AIM explained that very well, and I'm plagiarizing them here at this point to some extent. Really what happened there was McCabe was given a free ticket. I hate to tell you that, but that's what that really was. A firing like that, as Lionel said, he's got a pension of, I think it's more than this, but he's saying $55,000 a year. McCabe has millions of dollars in offshore accounts and other things that he's been able to, like Mueller and like Comey. That whole firing was kind of, like I said, it was kind of a bone. Throw them a bone, and what they're going to do is what's happening. The MSM is focusing in on the firing and how horrible it is, etc., ignoring all of the criminal conduct. Do you hear that in the MSM? Somewhat on Fox, but not really anywhere else. Not in the MSM. So it's another distraction. McCabe he didn't even really fall on a sword. So this entire thing with McCabe is a show. It's a sham. Unless he's indicted, arrested, etc., along with all the other cronies, this means nothing what's happened to him. I was happy to see it progress to that point, but don't start thinking that Jeff Sessions is now some great wondrous guru of our legal system and prosecuting the evil side. No, he hasn't proven that at all at this point. Let's see. Wow, that's interesting about Sarkozy trying to keep people, or he did try to keep people from seeing WikiLeaks. That's suppression of freedom of speech again, right? In the reverse aspect of it. Okay. Anything else going on here? I suspect I've missed a lot of, really, because you folks, you give me a lot of good information when we do that. Please comment. Theo McConnell says that his sister Christine Marcy and Hillary Clinton ran the biggest pedophile network in the world. Yeah. On Twitter, I think it was 2 days ago, Theo McConnell tweeted out that he told his sister Christine Marcy that it was too late for her. Yeah, I think she realized that. This is one of the good things that happened. I brought it up in the video. I think it was yesterday. That is an indication that things are happening. That even if Trump isn't moving forward with arrests, the people see it coming. So that was a positive sign that she was concerned about herself and what she's done. So that was a good thing that McConnell let us know about. As far as claims of her in particular being involved in those pedophilia things, I wouldn't know, and I wouldn't want to conjecture. I would say that almost to a person in the shadow government, they've been protecting those people at the very least, which is, conspiracy, accessory after the fact, or an accessory, yeah, sure. Obstruction of justice, all kinds of things. That's why all these people have to go down. But the details of her in particular, Christine Marcy, on that, I don't know. You look like shit. Manu Zeph. Yeah, well, I'm sick. I had all this other work done, and then I had to get this subsequent to that. So yeah, I'm kind of worn out. Yeah, so I will. I'll take care of myself. Did Sessions actually break up and arrest a lot of pedo groups, MS-13? Well, yeah, they're arresting MS-13. That's been going on for, about a year now. That's still low level. Now, as I said once before, they're grabbing that army at the bottom that can conduct all these terrible things, and I understand that. But I also know that a principle of war is that you take out the command and control. That has not happened yet. Not in any detailed, effective manner at this point. Not yet. Despite what you might hear from other sources, that's just not happening. People get Vince Edwards' case is a shame. Just like Money, please get Roy to see this. Vince Edwards, just like the Bunnies. I don't know about Vince Edwards. We're kind of ringing a bell, but I don't know the details. So I'll see if I can look into that. Okay. Thanks everybody for your kind comments. It's nice to see those compared to the trolls. I appreciate it. I do know that I don't mind criticism, constructive criticism. That's good, but just outright slander and accusations, bearing false witness. That's a whole other thing entirely. And there's been a lot of that, as most of you know. I usually don't address it directly. There are other ways to do that. Could it be that people are rebelling in Austin and that's why they let the bombings go? The thing about the evil side is that, and you see this in history, the Night of the Long Knives and all that business. You get people to help you to do corrupt things. And who are the first people that you imprison, kill? The people that helped you. If you're a tyrant, you take out those people because you already know you can't trust them. So the left, the leftist Marxists, those types of people, they use people that they know they can't trust. Okay, they know that people that follow their system are untrustworthy. They're the first ones they're going to get rid of when and if they take over. They'll be the very first ones. So in that regard, are these things happening in Austin for that reason? I think it's a little too early for that. Are they sheeple? Do they depend on the government to protect them? Yeah. Austin's all the Californians moved to Austin, right? It's now the center of leftist ideology in Texas. Actually, even in the country, I think Austin is like one of those Agenda 21 cities, right? So, this is a sheep population, and the wolves will go after the sheep because they're the easy targets, right? I think it's more that than anything else. And of course, that group are the loudest voices for more government control. They'll stop the First Amendment, stop the Second Amendment, that whole thing. So you press them a little bit more and they get a little louder, right? That's why we have to stay loud, and that's why I keep doing this, even though I sometimes want to give it up. Not that I don't appreciate you guys, but at any rate. Okay. Is it time for you to honor your oath? Discretion, my friend, is the better part of valor. Okay? And I always talk about the Gettysburg Pickett's charge as an example, which is why I also give President Trump a lot of leeway, despite the fact I think he needs to act. Pickett and his group, thought, wow, yeah, getting in line and crossing that mile of open terrain to the Seminary Ridge, up high terrain where the Union Army was entrenched. They thought that they'd make it because they were going to honor their God and their oath. And they got wiped out. Okay, so I do understand that there has to be discretion, there has to be planning. But I also know, and this is why I call for this, that you can start taking out individuals. You can. You might not be able to clean up the whole system, but there need to be some examples made. Okay? I have no idea about, people want to know about the bomber in Texas. Look, we even President Trump still isn't telling us about the truth of Las Vegas or about the school shooting in Florida or any number of other things. Okay? So the truth about this bomber, are they going to tell us about, the FBI and the shadow government, the CIA, are in control. I would like to see President Trump come out and say, look, I'm just going to tell you what happened in Vegas. This is what they're not telling you. This is the whole story, but this is what they're not telling you. ISIS was involved. Paddock wasn't the lone shooter. He doesn't even have to say anything else. If he'd just say those two things, it would be an improvement. But there's silence. What about 9/11? Now that's a big one. All right. This Republican insider I know, he's saying, he's probably not going to be able to do any revelations on 9/11 in his first term. That's just too big. That just has too many problems to that. And that might be correct. But it's not like we don't know. The Murat building is another example. But the Oklahoma City bombing. But certainly 9/11. I mean, when are we going to find out about that? That we can't relegate that to the pages of history and not go after the treasonous bastards that did that. I hope that that's Trump's long-range plan, but unless he starts moving down that road of seizing the initiative and starting to corral these people, he's not going to get a chance to. They're going to kill him. It's coming down the rope, or that's going to be their only option. He's stopped their impeachment proceedings pretty much, especially with Joe diGenova. I never can say. I wasn't very good at Italian. Anyway, diGenova. Thank you. Actions need to be taken. It's really time for all the talk to be over with. It's kind of like John Wayne, and I've used this before. I forget the name of the movie, but he played the part of a Union colonel after he had been a Union colonel in the Civil War, and he's headed out west, and he's taking steer out there, cows and stuff. And then there's Rock Hudson, who played the part of a Southern colonel, in the Civil War, and they're headed to Mexico to be under, the freedom-loving Emperor Maximilian. Oh yeah, right. But the story's good. So they're going along, and they keep running into these banditos. Did any of you see this movie? I can't remember. It's right on the tip of my tongue. I can't remember the name of the movie. But at any rate, so they see these banditos coming after them, and they circle the wagons. John Wayne and Rock Hudson, they protect the women and children and all that. And then John Wayne takes a small group out to meet these banditos, and they're talking. And, they're saying, well, we want, the banditos are saying, well, we want this. And John Wayne says, no, you're not going to get that. Then it goes back and forth, and then the conversation stops. And how John Wayne, when he's looking, he had that little movement in his forehead and his eyes and, focus. And he takes out his .45 and he shoots the lead bandito. And then there's a little gunfight, and John Wayne and his group run back to the circled wagons to get ready for the attack. And the lady, I don't remember who plays a part, but she says, why did you shoot him? Why did you shoot him? And John Wayne's answer is, well, ma'am, the conversation just kind of dried up. The conversation has dried up, okay? They're not going to budge. The shadow government, the deep state, isn't going to budge, all right? The conversation has dried up. Cahill, U.S. Marshal, no, he played that part, but that's not the movie. But I that was a good movie too, but that wasn't the one. I think it was El Dorado or something. And it wasn't El Dorado, but anyway. Okay, let's see if we got anything else here. No, I think that's about it. We've been at this for an hour and 10 minutes, coming up on an hour and 15 minutes. So thank you all for coming. I appreciate you being here and taking part. I hope it was of some interest to you, and I'll probably do some more videos in the near future. But these live streams are kind of fun, I gotta admit. They really are. I didn't even ask how the sound was this time. I was just looking at the settings here, and it looks like it's okay. The monitors, I think it was okay. Hopefully so. Thank you all for coming. God bless all of you. God bless the Constitutional Republic of the United States of America. God bless the Second American Revolution. And, of course, God bless President Donald J. Trump in all of his righteous endeavors. And we'll see you next time, all right? Out here. Have a good day.